Hello and welcome to episode 119 of Retro Encounter, RPG fans, topic-specific, weekly, not attached to current events, not a slave to fashion podcast. I'm Mike Sollosi and I'm your host this week, and with me are, I guess this is a reunion of our quintet episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the quintet trio.
Sure, that is a little bit confusing, because the quintet and trio are not the same, but those two voices you heard were first, Hilary Andreff,
Hi, everyone.
and second, Robert Fenner.
As always, better Red Ranger than Dead Ranger.
All right, now, this week's game is Chroma Squad, which is the third game of our three indie games that we're covering for January in our little indie month. And Chroma Squad is a straight-up parody of Super Sentai, which is better known in the West as Power Rangers. I don't want to get too deep into Tokusatsu and Sentai, but because that's a passion of mine, and I know I could talk about it for a full hour on a podcast if prompted. But we need to get into it a little bit. Super Sentai is a Japanese series of costume superheroes doing goofy poses and special effects fighting that's been around since 1975, and it's that genre of thing where is in Japanese television and film, where they have live action superheroes and monsters with a combination of practical effects and special effects, which is called Tokusatsu, which is the Japanese word for special effects, and everything from Godzilla films to Power Rangers TV shows are in that Tokusatsu genre. And I'm a big Tokusatsu fan, and this game was made by big Tokusatsu fans. It's pretty easy to tell. It's the studio that made it is a team in Brazil. I forget what were they called.
It is Behold Studios, the
Right.
creators of Knights of Pen and Paper.
Right. Behold Studios is based in Brazil, I believe,
That's
which makes sense at some level because Brazil has had Tokusatsu adaptations before North America has. I know that they had Brazilian Portuguese dubs of Sentai shows at least as early as 86, 87.
I wonder if that's related to the post-World War II diaspora, because Brazil has one of the largest populations of settled Japanese in the world.
Possibly, I think that's more coincidence than than the diaspora, because specifically Sentai adaptations, I think were first in I think the first couple were in Singapore or the Philippines, and then
Okay.
and then a couple European countries got them. France
Yeah.
got Bioman, like the 1983 or 84 Sentai, dubbed in French, which is again a full decade before North America got Power Rangers. So, but anyway, it's a very weird, very specific kind of TV show, and Super Sentai, at least, which has gone over 40 seasons and started in the 1970s, is always about a team of color-coded, costumed superheroes who right wrongs and fight as a team and undergo team drama and eventually summon a giant robot to cap off all of the action. So that's where we're starting from here. Chroma Squad is a parody slash homage to Super Sentai and Power Rangers. And Robert, you were mentioning before we started recording that they even got in trouble with Haim Saban, the production studio that makes Power Rangers. Is that right?
Yeah, apparently so. From what from what I understand, that they, I guess Dr. Soap used to have a name a little bit more similar to Haim Saban, and the
Oh, okay.
costumes were shaped a little bit more like the costumes that you found in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That makes so much sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and they received a letter from Saban's copyright team asking them to do something about it. Apparently, despite them, they joke about it a lot on social media and a little bit in the game. I think Behold Studios have gone on record to say that actually they were pretty friendly and easy to deal with.
Okay, cool.
Maybe they're just saying that because of contract agreements, but yeah, so that's why we see a nod to Saban's Power Rangers on the title screen.
Right. And maybe I should mention this. Sentai is just a word that means task force or squad.
Hmm.
So Super Sentai is really just Super Squad is what the name of the whole franchise is. And
Task Force. That's so hip hop.
and the production company that makes Super Sentai, Toei, has several superhero shows under their wing, including Kamen Rider, which is probably the most popular tokusatsu show in Japan. It's Kamen Rider shows are always higher rated than Super Sentai, even though there's been more Super Sentai over the years.
It's got that cool motorcycle, huh?
Yeah. Except for the one season, which was a Knight Rider reference, where he had a talking car instead of a motorcycle.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Kamen Rider Drive. That's a good season too. All right, part of the fun of Chroma Squad is that you get to sort of design your own team of Rangers, and basically right at the beginning, your player characters are a group of stuntmen. We're making a show under the direction of Doctor Soap, and they don't like how Doctor Soap is doing the show. It's like they're having him transform right at the beginning instead of build up drama. There's no dialogue or story. They're frustrated at how weak this tokusatsu show they're on is. So they all quit and decide to make their own TV show. And in doing so, they find an old warehouse that they're able to use, and a big cool looking device called Cerebro that they decide to plug in and have it and use as sort of a central prop to their
Hmm.
to the TV show. It's like, and it the way they use it is sort of like, like Zordon and Power Rangers, just this big ominous machine that guides them and is also provides the voice of the narrator.
Or Cerebro from X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that was a copyright that they didn't have to deal with. But and from there you basically record TV episodes of your own tokusatsu show. You get to design everything from the suits to you have to buy cardboard to build to make your giant robot, and but then the game takes a bit of a crazy story turn, but which we will get to. But first, I have to know just the most basic question of all, starting with you, Hilary. What five colors were your Rangers, and what did you name your team?
All right, so I actually had my leader as brown, and then I had like a light green and a light blue and purple and pink, just because the way
Awesome.
I don't know, yeah, the way the formation looked together was I don't know. I just liked how it looked kind of in the title screen and when they were all in a line. So there you go.
There's no wrong way. There's no wrong way to do it. You pick the colors you want. It's like Sentai itself has a lot of weird traditionalism. Like red is always the leader or the most important character. Um, like Black Rangers are always men, Pink Rangers are always women. But we don't have to deal with any of that now. This is just do it however you want. And Rob, what was your five colors?
Um, I think I'm really boring, and I went with the default. I don't. I'm sure that I knew that you could change colors, but now that I'm thinking about it, like if I knew that, or if I paid more attention, I probably would have done so. So it was red, black, yellow, pink, and blue. We were all women, and we were called the Naughty Squad. Naughty Squad Assemble was our battle cry.
Nice. Oh, and Hillary, what was your team name? I think I glossed over that.
No problem. So I just switched it from the default, which I think was Mighty Incorporated, to Mighty Mighty Incorporated because one wasn't enough.
She's Mate
Um,
Mate. But that no, that's your studio name. What about your team name?
Oh, whoops, yeah. Um, Actually, I think I kept that at the default because I was really after seeing the title screen and like I was just very excited to get started. So I think I loved it.
Yeah, and I think you can change your team name and
at
your
any time.
at any
Yeah,
time,
anytime,
but
which
you
is great.
yeah, you can't change your color combination though. They set that from the beginning.
Yeah, your actors are locked too. I was a little bit surprised by that, but
Hmm.
it worked. It worked for me.
Yeah, and I should mention my team was red, black, light blue, purple, and white, which is
Mhm.
yeah, and I named the team the Sorcerer Rangers
Cool.
because yeah, I'm not sure why. It just seemed to work. But like and just part of the fun of this game is just making your own team and you get to choose their catchphrases for both for when they transform and when they summon your giant robot and for when they do their super attack. Because like poses and calling out ridiculous attack names is part of Super Sentai. 100%.
Heck yeah.
It wouldn't be it
Mhm.
without it wouldn't feel right without it. And in general, I think they incorporate it pretty well into the gameplay and combat. So basically, Chroma Squad is a strategy RPG that takes place on a grid of squares similar to your Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics, but there's a lot of fun twists to the strategy gameplay elements. Starting with you, Rob, what did you think of the basic bones of combat in this game?
Um, they are very basic bones.
Yes.
This is a it's a no frills strategy game. You're not really worrying about different weapon types too much. All terrain is flat. Only got a limited amount of verbs. However, I got along really well with it. I'm because I'm a big dumb guy. Although I'm fascinated and I'm very much in love with Tactics Ogre, I'm horrible at it because of all of everything you need to keep track of in that game. So, a strategy game that allows you to just go and wail on guys in sort of a basic way. I get on with that very, very well. It's one of the reasons why I like Disgaea. I mean, even though that has intricate systems, you can just be wacky in that game. And the simplicity of Chroma Squad I felt was very, very well executed um in what it set out to do. So I actually had a lot of fun with it. It only really started to grate on me at the very, very end, but we'll get to that later. But for like the 9 of the 10 hours that I spent with it, it was loads and loads of fun.
And Hilary, what were your basic thoughts on the combat in this game?
They were pretty similar. A lot of my thoughts were just covered. One thing I'd add is the extra sort of features like the teamwork and the team attacks were really nice. Like they fit the theme really well, and they were still pretty simple, which was nice. And I liked the way that the simple sort of episode gameplay, I think that was a good choice given that you have all the studio stuff that you can do in between episodes as well. Because I never felt like I had to spend too much time either in episode or doing crafting. I could kind of strike a nice balance without getting too overwhelmed.
Hmm.
We will get to the studio stuff in a minute, but
Yep.
one thing you mentioned that I do want to talk about is the teamwork gameplay. There's basically a teamwork button that your characters can use instead of attacking or moving at any time. Oh, and if you move without acting, you get to move a second time, for which is helpful if you want to just travel across the screen uh, in a large amount. But like the teamwork button, basically your character will just go into a pose, and if one character is posing in teamwork, then if another character attacks near them, they can join for a team attack, or a character can walk up to them, and the character that is in the teamwork pose can pick them up and throw them, or have them jump off their shoulders, which is a very very Sentai thing.
Doing
And
the old alley oop.
yeah, exactly. And if you have all five characters teamwork next to an enemy, then at the end of the turn, you'll have your 5-man special attack, which is just a big rainbow nonsense flash that's very entertaining. That's very powerful, and sometimes is even incorporated into the director instructions,
Yeah.
which is a very cool feature. And Hillary, you also
Speaking
mentioned
of
that.
Disgaea, that's kind of lifted wholesale from it, actually.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sorry, I've interrupted you.
Are you talking about the tossing or the director instructions?
The combos from
Oh yeah.
lining up
Mhm.
in teamwork mode.
It's a little different in Disgaea because it's
Yeah.
all you need is positioning, and you don't and without the teamwork button. And
Mhm.
Disgaea does have picking up and throwing mechanics as well.
Mhm.
But the teamwork button is a fun mechanic that you can also twist around a little bit because like your support character also gets a free heal whenever he or she uses teamwork.
Yes.
But you mentioned earlier that it's framed as episodes. Basically, um, it, because you're a studio, you're filming episodes, and every fight is an episode of your show. Which so like every standalone fight will have a little contained story and something called director instructions, which are special tasks that will give you bonus audience points and perhaps even bonus damage or other extras if you complete those director's instructions during the battle. And sometimes it's fun, like defeat a couple enemies before you transform, finish off the boss with a team attack, hit the boss 3 times with regular attacks before killing them. Like just a lot of little semi-arbitrary tasks. And also you have an audience that grows as that as the show goes on, and at the very end, you earn money from your advertising campaign based on how much audience you got. So and that ties into sort of the second phase of the game, which is the studio gameplay, which is all of the tinkering and all of the manipulation that you do to your studio and to your team in between episodes, in between battles. So
Listening to that smooth, goofy bossa nova.
yeah, the studio music is pretty smooth. I enjoyed it. That song had been annoying, that would have been a real problem because you're spending a lot of time,
All time there.
yeah, a lot of time crafting cardboard for your mech, and and gluing suits together and everything. So starting with you, Hillary, like what jumped out at you about the studio parts of gameplay?
Um, the crafting aspect. I mean, I have a lot of crafty friends, so I was immediately drawn to that. And the materials were all pretty entertaining. I loved beating up enemies and getting like Play-Doh and duct tape. um, and just it was interesting how there were the different components to it. Like you could combine a bunch of duct tape to get better quality duct tape, and at the same time, you could also buy packs of materials. So that was kind of nice that there were multiple avenues to get what you needed, especially at later stages where you needed difficult to get or more specific things.
Early on, I found the crafting frustrating, especially because most of the way to get materials is through random drops, and even the boxes
Yeah.
that you buy are randomly assorted boxes of materials.
Those duct tape loot boxes.
Yeah, you don't get duct tape loot boxes until
Oh
um
yeah, that's like a couple seasons in or
yeah.
something. Maybe
Oh
not.
yeah, we should also mention the game is divided into 5 seasons, and I don't think you get the duct tape box until maybe season 3. So sometimes getting tape is a little, or cardboard, or whatever specific material you want is a little challenging early on. And also outside of crafting, you get to choose individual actors for each of your characters that have different bonuses, and you have to hire an advertising campaign that will affect how much money you earn from each episode, and how quickly your audience grows, and a couple other things. There's quite a lot to do in the studio segments of gameplay in between recording episodes.
Yeah, and answer emails.
Right? Oh God. um, and
Reading those mean tweets at the end of each battle.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you get to, like, at the end of each episode, you get your Twitter reactions to the battle, and sometimes they're hilarious. And again, this was a Kickstarted game. I did not give to this Kickstarter, but I wish I had. It was, I think, 2014 or whenever this was going on, was when when I was a little bit disenchanted with Kickstarter after spending too much money on Kickstarters before then. But a lot of people that gave to the Kickstarter get their names appearing in emails or in those tweets, or even as NPCs in the game, because several episodes have a almost random guest character appear, and many of those are Kickstarter backers.
Yes. Like the vendor guy at the convention center.
Who they try to buy cupcakes from a hot dog stand, which is an interesting strategy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or that
but
dude who just flies up to a roof.
right.
I mean, you got to give your backer rewards. I wasn't a big fan of this kind of thing. You could really
Uh-huh.
see it was really obvious what this was, and I'm never a very very big fan of it. But whatever. It's harmless. It's
I think it's fine for the Twitter
fun.
reactions because I
Yeah.
mean, getting, I don't know, Cloud Fan 1881 saying, "Man, Chroma Squad is the best, great episode," is a fine little shout out. But having the NPCs come out of nowhere was, I think, a little grosser than the Twitter stuff. And responding to emails, sometimes I was almost touched by the email responses, because
Yeah.
like because some of them are are quite funny, like someone complaining about minutia in the show, but if you respond to them positively, they immediately turn into fanboys. And one that I thought was quite special was there's a girl who was afraid of the monsters on the show, so you can spend $50 or something to send her to send her
A mecha toy.
to send her a mecha toy, and then you're if you do that, then the parents will just say, "Oh, thank God that mecha toy is now her guardian at night. I'm gonna tell everyone I know about the show," and then you get plus 50 audience or something. It's like that that was quite sweet, but the incorporation of fake social media I was very amused by, and
Yeah.
I'm always amused when you see that. Like I even love the like when there's dumb texting or something in a video game, like the texting in Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Persona 5 is something I really adore. So it makes the game feel a little more grounded, even though those games are frankly ridiculous sci-fi fantasy nonsense. But
I lost some audience when I shut down somebody's preferred ship.
oh, you did?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wow, I started losing
Someone sent
audience.
an email saying like I've gotten into a fight with my friend because I say that these two are together, but she says that these two are together. So
Hmm.
you got to tell me who's together. And I think I said like, well, nobody's together. And they were like,
Oh,
well, you know
come
what? I'm gonna tell
on.
all my friends to boycott.
Oh no.
You should have known better, Robert.
No, I did know better, and I did it just to be a
Okay.
jerk,
Okay, that's better.
to be a
I
jerk to
Um,
fake people.
I lost a lot of audience towards the end because I had built up a very large audience by the final season. But then I switched to the advertising campaign that gives you more and more money, but you lose audience every episode because it's full of product placement.
Oh yeah.
oh,
And
what is that advertisement agency called? Because there's a great name.
all of them are goofy references. One of them is basically Shield from the Avengers, and
Yes.
one of them is basically Shocker from Kamen Rider. Uh, but
I like how the very first one is just like your friend Joe.
yeah,
Yes.
or like your dad's accountant friend or something. But it's
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, but
Hey,
you get bigger budget advertisers as the game moves on, and the exploitative money one, I did that for about 3 episodes in the last season, and it was. But then I got a little bit disheartened by losing so much audience, so I switched to a more normal one after that.
Hmm.
What else is around the studio sim stuff
Uh,
that's
you're as well as crafting and answering emails. You're also upgrading your studio to be better and better.
oh, that's right,
yes.
yeah.
Um, you get more hit points by upgrading your health
Health plan.
insurance,
I love that.
which I really like. Uh,
Got to
better
get that gold
lights,
health plan.
Yep.
yeah. Better lights give you better critical hits. Some of them even transform the studio. Like if you upgrade your green screen, you see like a much more like it starts out as like it looks like Billy and Jimmy's Warehouse from Double Dragon when you start the game, and as you
It
upgrade it,
does.
like you get more and more nice technical aspects. You get a really nice green screen and lights and boxes everywhere, and it really comes together in the end. And it was
Yeah, it
um,
does. And it's
getting
so
those
cool.
bonuses and watching. It's yeah.
Yeah, the way it looks
Yeah.
does change. I remember being super excited when I finally got a vacuum cleaner and I could see that like the studio was being cleaned.
And you
And there's a
get
cat that hangs out too.
yeah, and I think one other thing that you get to customize in this game are the actors playing your main characters, and
Yes.
they each have different stats and different upgrades. And if you upgrade your vacuum to a cleaning crew, then some of the unused actors that you didn't hire are the cleaning crew. So I guess
Oh, bummer
it's
for them.
yeah. So I guess
Oh.
it's a little bit challenging finding work sometimes, being an actor in Chroma Squad City or whatever the setting for is for this game. I don't remember I don't remember exactly how they work. But let's talk about the individual episodes a little bit because sometimes the plots are just hilarious and the monster designs get a little goofy in this game, which is something I enjoyed very much. My personal favorite was the pigeon costume, which is
Yes.
a very muscular woman with a large pigeon costume, and she flies by flapping her own arms. Not wings, just
The
some
arms.
muscly arms sticking out of the pigeon.
And she's the friend of your whoever you choose as your assault
Hmm.
ranger,
Right.
which
Oh,
is pretty nice.
oh, and yeah, quick aside, there's 5 roles that your rangers get, and you assign roles to different actors at the beginning. And like I think I mentioned, your support ranger has healing moves from her teamwork. The assault ranger deals more damage. The lead ranger has more health. The techie ranger gets to use skills more often to produce his cooldowns, and then the scout ranger is the most agile one that can do more evasion and more counterattacking. So yeah, those are your 5 basic characters. Uh, and so, Rob, did you have a favorite monster or a favorite episode scenario? Because sometimes they're pretty amusing.
I really did like that first boss, the box with boxing gloves, quite a bit. Um, but like, I guess if I had to pick an absolute favorite, um, oh God, there's so many. I mean, like, there's Ironing Man, who's Iron Man, but he's a flat iron. But I guess my absolute favorite, I can't remember her name. It was something like Fish Girl, and it's like a lady in a bikini with like a fish head on top,
Hmm.
and she has like charm spells to seduce your teammates, and
A
that
very
that
interesting take on a mermaid or siren, I would say.
yeah, that really worked on me.
Okay, this is just a random reference, but have either of you seen Red Dwarf?
I have, yeah.
There's an episode that like takes place in some better than life simulation, and the cat imagines like a mermaid girlfriend that is a fish on top like that.
Oh, that's awesome. There was another show here featuring I'm not sure if it was some of the same writers, but Craig Charles was in it, called Captain Blood. It was like a pirate sitcom, and he gets a mermaid girlfriend, and she's a traditional mermaid, but he has to fertilize her eggs outside of her body.
Oh, that is how it works for many fish species. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. Sorry for the tangent.
And I also liked the dancing bear that was basically nothing except a bear that could jam once in a while.
I like the like dramatic pauses whenever he danced.
Yep. And how the music changed and like they
Yeah,
zoomed in on him really quickly.
yeah. Just as
so
another side.
apparently, I looked that up to see what that was about. Apparently, that was a Kickstarter reward as well, and I got
Sure.
to say that's a pretty good one.
Hmm. See, Kickstarter rewards aren't all bad.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, but while I'm
You
thinking
were
about
saying,
it,
Hillary?
oh, the music. Actually, I know we talked a
Mm.
little bit about it, but like even from the theme song at the very beginning, like I really enjoyed the music in this game a lot. It just got me very pumped up to get through the game and like keep working in the studio or doing an episode, whatever I was doing.
Yeah, they
They
even
hired some
have
classicers as well, didn't they?
some what? Sorry.
Singers who are known to Tokusatsu
Oh, oh,
to
possibly.
sing the title screen song and the ending song.
That could be true. I know there are recurring bands and artists that have sung Sentai songs in the past, and the opening to this game does have Japanese lyrics, but
Yeah.
I didn't recognize the singer because I guess I don't pay much attention to the singers for Tokusatsu shows compared to other aspects of those shows. But
Maybe I'm mistaken. It looks like the
no,
guy who sung the theme song is Shuka Yama, who uh, is just sings in some games. It looks like he sang some songs on the Gungrave soundtrack.
but we should mention this game is full of Sentai and Kamen Rider and Power Rangers references everywhere. Some like for example, I'll just do a couple, but I don't want to list them forever. One of your assault special moves near the end of the game is Battle Fever, and Battle Fever was the name of the 1978 or 79 Super Sentai show.
Okay.
One of the characters who's not on your team but is an important character in some endings is named Kanji Abo, which is definitely a reference to Kenji Oba, who was a stunt actor in some of the Sentai shows in the 70s, and then became a regular actor for 2 different shows. I know he was the Black Ranger in one show and the Blue Ranger in another show, and he's done cameos in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. He's a beloved Sentai actor. Uh,
Oh,
After doing all those stunts, he was black and blue.
yeah, I guess so.
ah.
But yeah, he gets extra respect among Sentai actors since he's been a stunt worker and a performer. So people really like that guy, and he was also one of the main characters in the Metal Hero series, which I will talk about briefly because remarkably that factors into the story of this game. um,
Perfect.
and I guess I mentioned it a second ago. There are 3 story paths in Chroma Squad that are distinctly different. Surprisingly, like a game this silly almost feels like it doesn't need branching story, but it does have branching story paths that are specific references to Tokusatsu shows. Um, but leading up to it, should we go into the branching paths or talk about the story at large a little bit first?
Maybe we should start with the story at large, unless you have any objections.
No, no, I don't. Um,
Hmm.
all right, the game is divided into seasons, and in the first season, you're basically your team is trying to find their footing, and I think near is the Doctor Soap fight near the at the end of that one?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and the end story of that one is that the Doctor Soap, the director that you quit the show of early in the game, sues you and eventually fights you. And then in the second and third seasons, you meet a mysterious figure named Lord Gaga, who refers to you as his little monsters and has his own little pop music theme.
Oh my God, his theme is great.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's pretty good.
he gives you an item called an audience booster that's supposed to boost your signal and improve your audience. But what it really is a mind control device that is affecting the actions of your lead character, your quote unquote Red Ranger. Even though I don't think it was a Red Ranger for any of the three of us. Um, I had the Blue Ranger as the leader for this one, but and I forget what
The,
there's
the
this.
the lead starts getting arrogant and insisting on taking up all the screen time, and is quite argumentative and not very nice to the rest of the team.
And doesn't like the awesome pigeon strong arm lady friend of the assault
Come on.
role. Yeah, seriously.
And I think they must have lifted conversation directly from forum arguments because I've seen it so many times where people complain that the Red Ranger gets too much attention in Sentai shows. It, it's a very common complaint that sometimes I share, and sometimes I think people are overblowing it. But like having an entire season be about a Red Ranger with too much focus is pretty great. Uh, but it
Well,
ends up.
it's like the red M&M, you know. You want to see that sexy green one, but it's just always that red guy.
Yeah, and like I guess little kids like the Red Ranger because they get the most story and all the coolest moves and stuff. But like people that really appreciate the shows, it's always about the side characters. Like oh
Yeah,
man, why aren't there more Blue Ranger episodes?
the protagonist has to be the most plain to lead the team with a level head, huh?
Well, yes and no. Like okay, I don't want to get too inside baseball here, but um, Sentai Reds are sometimes a sort of like normal leader like Boy Scout goody two shoes type, but sometimes they're also a screaming shonen fireball type,
Oh
which
yeah.
which I don't prefer honestly. Like, but no, having a season of this game be about the Ranger getting too big for his or her boots, I enjoyed that quite a bit, and I'm sorry, not the Red Ranger, the lead Ranger, and my lead Ranger was portrayed by a beaver, I should say, I guess.
Oh, I thought about hiring one.
I
And I
hired the
didn't.
beaver as the main
I
one.
really should
Yeah,
have.
but yeah, mine were the beaver, the basketball player, the Scarlett Johansson stand-in, and then two of the two women that were good with melee attacks for my assault and scout. But yeah, I had the beaver as my lead ranger.
Awesome.
So it was a little bit amusing seeing this, your lead ranger turn into a diva, and my lead ranger was a cartoon beaver.
I I almost made my lead the robot. Almost.
But yeah, the
Good actors on call in this game.
the actor selection are amusing. But it turns out that Lord Gaga is not helping you. The enhancement device that he gave you is to control the lead ranger's mind, and what it's also doing is opening up portals to outer space, so Lord Gaga can bring in his invasion fleet. He is an evil space conqueror of sorts. And around the same time, you realize that Cerebro, the device that you found unplugged in a warehouse, is some kind of interplanetary hero that fell to Lord Gaga in some earlier battle, but you revived him by plugging in his Cerebro machine. So but somehow, even though everything up until now has been stunt work and fake, because they believe in themselves so much, and maybe Cerebro's giving them powers, now their Chroma Squad powers are real to to combat Lord Gaga's real monsters.
It's
Even though it's a worldwide crisis, they still film it and put it out as a
Hmm.
series of the show.
Yep.
yeah, you've got like the team in the background of every fight that like the guy with the camera and like other guy with a
Oh yeah,
microphone like on the edge of the screen.
I love those guys. They remind me of one of my favorite PS2 games, Guitar Man, where which also has some Tokusatsu influence in it, I guess. But
Yeah.
in Guitar Man, you always have your three musician backup people playing like playing cymbals and triangle and whatever that follow you in every single in every single song and battle that you do in that game. But yeah, having your ever present recording studio guys, even when you're like on an enemy spaceship, is a very amusing detail.
And I like how everyone at the beginning assumes that Cerebro is just like a fancy prop, sort of like a you can input text and it produces the speech. And Cerebro spends like more than a season acting like a text to speech prop.
Hmm.
You
Exactly.
start getting some hints start getting dropped early on. Like you'll get some emails, I think, that are like, I there's something weird about this. It's able to turn itself on,
Yeah.
and I was kind of hoping they were gonna like do something with Cerebro being a villain, but they didn't in the end. But still,
Uh, Cerebro's the good mentor character, and Lord
yeah.
Gaga is the villain for the most part. And yeah, and like I guess towards the in later episodes or later seasons, the plots get a little bit more a little bit more sinister. Like they're like turning people into stone, and the dancing bear was, or
I'm
no,
not sure.
the dancing bear there was a transforming bear.
Yes. The
Right,
dancing bear
Oh,
transformed it and they were describing it as sort of like a
that's what it was.
almost a computer bug, actually, which was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So I was confused by multiple bears, but it was just a transforming bear that turned into the dancing bear. I can't believe this is a real thought that I'm having. But I guess we should go into the where the story branches now here, because during the fourth season, you rescue a young woman named Tammy in one of the episodes, and but then later it's revealed that Tammy is from a long line of heroes defending Earth, but Lord Gaga has brainwashed her, and you have to fight Lord Gaga alongside Tammy. And also, amusingly, your techie ranger has a crush on Tammy. But anyway, later they Tammy reveals that she's from a long line of superheroes that have been defending Earth. The Kanji Abo character is her father,
okay.
but I think you only meet you don't meet Kanji in the Tammy path. You meet him in the Metal Hero path. But the I think it's at the end of season 4, beginning of season 5. There's that fight against Lady Gaga and Tammy, and you get three ending paths depending on uh, whether you defeat Tammy first or defeat Lord Gaga first. And if you defeat Lord Gaga first, you can choose to have Tammy join the team, or you can tell Tammy to go home.
Mhm.
So those are the three paths: the Tammy path, the Tammy go home path, and the defeat Tammy path. So and each of those is a specific Tokusatsu reference that I'll talk about in a second. But which path did each of you take? Starting with you, Hilary.
I did the Tammy joined the team sixth ranger path.
Okay. And then Rob, how about you?
Well, I bungled because the now if if the choice said Tammy go home, I wouldn't have picked it. The choice is side with Cerebro or side with Tammy,
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
Yep.
well, you
So
know,
Cerebro is telling Tammy to go home though
oh,
in the
okay.
story.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And so I sent Tammy home, and then I got a storyline with some Rangers from outer space, and I was like, oh, you know what? I bet she was the sixth Ranger. I really should have had her here,
Mhm.
but it's one save file, and you can't go back, and so that one is lost in time like tears and rain. How about you, Mike? What did you do?
Um, this is my second time playing the game. So the first time I sent Tammy home and got and teamed up with one of the space sheriffs from outer space. But this time I did the Tammy Sixth Ranger path, and those two paths aren't that meaningfully different. If you do the Tammy path, she joins you as a Sixth Ranger. She has some martial arts skills, and in the final battle, she she reaches nirvana or self-actualization or something, and is very and gains a lot more power for the final battle. But and if you do the space hero route, you get to choose one of three basically someone from outer space comes to help you, and you get to choose between one of three. One is a healer, one has a lot of defense, and one has a lot of attack. And then for the final battle, the other two you didn't pick join for the end game scenario. And I should mention that the Tammy path is like a traditional Super Sentai show, where around the midpoint a sixth ranger will join the team, and they're usually different and cooler than the other five, and or has a special skill or a cool mech or something. Like famously, the Green Ranger in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was the sixth ranger of the
Tommy.
team.
Is
Yep,
that his name?
yep, Tommy. And in the Super Sentai version of that season, that was the first time they had ever done a sixth ranger. So
Oh, groundbreaking.
yeah, so it was a groundbreaking thing, and I guess that was the '92 Super Sentai. So almost every season since then, 25 plus seasons, has followed in that path. So a sixth ranger definitely became a very common trope that is usually exciting and welcome to fans.
Mhm.
But one of the other shows that Toei produces in the tokusatsu genre is called Metal Heroes, which is they aren't quite as attached to the same traditionalism that Super Sentai is. Like each Metal Hero show is pretty different. Like one year it was ninjas fighting yokai in a castle. One year or several years it's like space sheriffs fighting intergalactic things. But the space hero route is a clear reference to to those shows. If you let's see, if you were watching Saban adaptations in the 90s, VR Troopers and Big Bad Beetleborgs are both adaptations of Metal Hero shows.
Oh, okay.
I've got that theme song in my head now.
I am sorry, because Big Bad
Beetleborgs.
Beetleborgs was weird.
Yeah, I remember one of those was I think was one of those based on in particular the Space Sheriff season, or am I remembering wrong?
Oh, I don't know. I've only seen parts one or one or two space Metal Hero shows, and I haven't finished any of
Mhm.
them.
Okay.
But I know the one where they were all beetle robots was the Big Bad Beetleborgs thing, and I think VR Troopers adapted more than one show. I'm not exactly sure how they all
What's that
work.
effect, huh?
Yeah, but the very first one of them was called Space Sheriff Gavan, and that you still see that the Gavan characters show up in Toei's recent shows.
Uh-huh.
But so yeah, those two story paths are based on the traditional Sixth Ranger and Metal Hero, and the path where if you where you defeat Tammy, um, if you do that, then her father comes and tells you what and offers to help you in your quest because they're from a family of heroes defending Earth. But in the first episode of season 5, all of your characters get kidnapped by Gaga except for your Assault Ranger. And after like an initial fight where you team up with Tammy's father, he gives you a transforming belt and a motorcycle, and you do an entire season fighting as the solo Assault Ranger, which is a reference to the Kamen Rider TV show that Toei produces. And the
That sounds so
motorcycle,
rad.
yeah, the motorcycle and belt give you a very powerful buff and a lot of extra movement and the ability to act. I think to act 2 or 3 times in a turn, and it's more challenging than the other modes because you also have to really work on keeping your assault. You don't have any healers and only some amount of self heal, but it's a pretty cool, pretty different story path where the assault ranger has to rescue his or her companions.
Hmm. I
And
kind of wish I'd went for that one. It sounds like the most interesting.
I haven't done that one either, but I know it's supposed to be harder than the other ones, and I didn't want to compromise my playing time for this podcast, even though I ended up
Yeah.
finishing with plenty of time to spare. This game is shorter than I remember. It's only about 9 or 10 hours. But I may well visit it and do that path at a later time because I did enjoy playing this a second time.
Yeah, I really want to too. I mean, there's a new Game Plus option and everything to
Yep.
try it out. So I was also reading a little bit about the different difficulty settings, and it's interesting because they're pretty clear suggested paths for the different difficulty levels. Like I
Mhm.
think the sixth ranger path is suggested for some of the less challenging ones, and then I think that middle path where you get the 3 extra space law enforcers is suggested for the higher difficulty levels, which makes sense.
Yeah, the metal heroes are stronger than Tammy, I think, and it does make the final battle a little bit easier. And Rob, you
Mhm.
mentioned at near the beginning of the episode that you found the last couple of fights quite challenging, and I'm with you. There's a weird difficulty spike right
Oof.
at the last Lord Gaga fight, and at the when you fight Gaga's commander. And I kind of love the fight against Gaga's commander because he has the gimmick of he never uses a weapon more than once. So there's a bunch of servant monsters carrying weapons that run up to him, and then he'll kill one and then use the weapon they were carrying for a special attack, which I thought was a little hilarious, but also quite
Mm.
powerful and one of the more challenging fights in the game. What were your thoughts on the on those late fights?
I had a terrible time.
Oh,
Despite having the metal heroes, I did not have an easy time at all. Those final two fights in particular are where I think bosses just keep spawning, and
Yep.
it's really just kind of like a battle of attrition,
the
and you're
Gaga
trying
one
to.
has way too many summoned bosses.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, after a while, it's like I need to stop. That one took me a second try. It was like the only time in the
Same.
in the entire game I had to use it. It's like okay, when he starts summoning these guys, I need to just ignore most of them and hammer on Gaga to end the fight because I cannot handle this level of reinforcements.
Yeah, that gets a big old F on game design from me. That it just kind of felt like a way to artificially have a challenge without it being particularly meaningful. And then the final battle, it wasn't quite as bad as that, especially when I figured out the gimmick, which was that the what was his name, like Emperor X or like Lord X or something.
Oh, so some
Um,
extremely generic villain name.
yeah, yeah. I when I learned that once you gang up on him, he'll eventually teleport to the other side of the arena. I'd split my teams into two effectively, so we could
Hmm.
surround him and pull off fancy moves on him. But it was still pretty challenging,
Yeah,
in a
that's
way that was slightly more less annoying than the battle that preceded it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the final fight a lot, especially since it does a very Sentai thing of him, transforming into a second form that's more unchecked power but kind of more monstrous.
Hmm.
He
Also
looks
doing,
funny too.
yeah, I like it. I liked the gimmicks and the pace of that final battle. Um, but also, I guess we haven't even talked about it yet. There's mecha fights in this game.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
God, how did we miss that?
I'm a little shocked that we managed to ignore that. But like, you build your mecha as you upgrade your team, but you do so with cardboard, and you can customize the torso, arms, legs, and head for different stats and different appearances. There's a lot of fun goofing around to do with that. But several episodes are punctuated off by mecha fights, which are very different from the strategy gameplay for the fights on foot. So, Hilary, could you give us a brief description of how the mecha fights go, and also your thoughts on them?
Okay, sure. So basically, like you said, the mega fights usually happen at the end of a series of points in an episode just to kind of be the final finishing touch, really big, exciting portion. So your rangers will call on the power of their mecha, and then you'll suddenly get a nice view of the cityscape. The monster usually has a final. They do this because the monster has a final form that's also giant, kind of like kaiju size attack. So you have to use the mecha, and then it becomes a different, almost kind of a different sort of style where you can choose to attack, and then you have to time and hit the mouse button to get in. There's a bar and get in the range to perform a successful attack.
Golfing.
There's yeah. um, and with defense, it's pretty similar, but you have kind of a shield symbol, and you try to time it so that the size matches, and then depending on how you customize your mecha, there are different special attacks. Like I use the laser beam one a lot, and the idea is to use attacks to get the opponent's health bar down. It actually, there's a series of three usually where it'll go down all the way once, and then you get a little bonus, and because you knock them back, and then they'll come back and you have to do it again.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they'll have multiple health bars, and every time you eliminate one health bar, they'll you'll knock down the opponent, and you'll get a free turn afterwards.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of strategy to customizing your mech to find out what to determine your skill loadout, but
Hmm.
there's much less strategy involved in actual fighting. It's basically
Yes.
just attacking and
Mhm.
defending and trying to get the knockdowns. And you can attach your special move, your finishing move, to your torso or to your left or right arm.
Yes.
And the strategy I use is I just improved my hit percentage as much as I could,
Hmm.
just to make that mini game like that golf mini game easier. And then by the end of the game, like it was my first three hits there wasn't even any red space on the bar.
Nice.
Nice.
And
Yeah, and the,
I would just punch on them and punch on them with my high hit percentage until I could get a knockdown, and that was basic my strategy. Though I didn't even have to defend unless there was director's instructions for any fight except for the final fight,
right,
which is way
because
harder than the other mecha fights in the game.
yeah, true.
Mm.
So yeah, that hit percentage is really important because the director's instructions are often, get a combo of X number of hits, and the hit bar gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, I couldn't get that 10 hit director's instruction in the very last battle.
Yeah, that
I
was rough.
got up to 9, but I couldn't make the 10.
Same.
I did get the hit bar up to 10, but I had maximized hit percentage over every
Yeah,
other stat for my
I
mecha,
had
so
not.
I was uniquely equipped to do that. But I think the mecha fights are. I mean, mindless is the wrong word. I think that the strategy gameplay on foot's way more interesting. But I
It's
do,
like a QTE to break up the
yeah.
to mix things up a little bit.
But I have to say, I love the drama of it because
Yeah,
every hit you do, they zoom in on the monster more, and they just try to put as much drama and as much like panache into the mecha fights as they can,
they do. You
which.
get the little like colors in the background that get
Mhm.
brighter the more you hit.
You get these onomatopoeias in katakana popping up on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was like the
It's
mecha
cool.
fights are fun and cool to watch, but the actual mechanics of them, where you're basically just playing that playing a golf mini game to try to click in the yellow or white portion of the bar, is was
Hmm.
less interesting.
Oh, I couldn't really imagine another way for them to do it. I mean,
Right.
especially working, within a small budget and with limited resources. So I'm happy that they did it that way instead of just adhering to a strategy battle that would have had like the same mechanics, but
Yeah.
you know, a 1v1.
I don't know how to make it better necessarily, but I am glad it's
Mm.
different, and I do love the visual choices and the style of the mecha fights.
Hmm. Big chunky pixels looks nice.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty great. Like you get a series of these, big transforming monsters. So like by the last couple mecha battles, the team is just sort of like, oh right, of course, there's another final form. Okay, mecha time. How much time did you all spend talking to the narrator after the credits rolled?
Oh, I
Quite
think
a
I missed
while.
this.
No, yeah, yeah, the narrator has a very long conversation with you that is sometimes just silence. But if you click through it enough, you do get a bonus scene,
Yeah,
where you see Cerebro in his original form.
before he was a brain in a jar.
Mhm.
Oh, I missed it. I missed it.
So Hilary, what does Cerebro look like?
He's sort of, a, I don't know how to describe him, but he's kind of like a really large, cute creature, kind of in a cowl.
Oh,
Almost looks bear-like, but not quite.
Yeah,
that's very cute.
I thought he looked like sort of like a giant hamster or something.
Yeah.
But which was and again a very interesting choice made by the developers. But it was you see Cerebro speaking to a former team that he was leading, and then you see Lord Gaga defeat him and confine Cerebro into the machine that he's in for most of the game.
Hmm.
But to get to that scene, you have to click through narrator dialogue after very lengthy credits for several minutes.
I don't know how I missed that.
It goes on a while, so it is a little bit easy to miss, I guess.
It does, and there were several points where I almost stopped because it was kind of like, okay, really, you can stop now. The game team is done. You should be done too.
So, a lot going on in this game. Starting with you, Rob, what's sort of your overall impression? Is that positive, negative, neutral?
It's mixed. As I said, I enjoyed it almost all the way through. The final battles I found pretty annoying. On the whole, I don't want to be too critical because it's obviously a lot of love went into this game, and these guys know they know their source material, and it's a loving homage to that. But as a whole, I think Chroma Squad is maybe like only partially successful. Um, because I felt that it was referential without being like particularly like clever or transformative. Henshin a go-go.
Hmm.
So I think that like replication is one thing, but I think it does have very very limited appeal, and I mean those who it does appeal to, it will probably appeal pretty strongly. But I think that maybe they could have done a little bit more with the concept and maybe something maybe a little bit more subversive or a little bit unusual that just wasn't quite there for me.
All right, and Hillary, how about you?
Um, I can definitely see what Rob is saying. I'm gonna say that my overall impression was positive just because I had so much fun with it. And I really did enjoy going back and forth between the different types of gameplay a lot. I kind of appreciate how all of that was mixed together. I think they did a good job with that. It's also I don't know. It's it's definitely referential, but I think I'm at the point where I'm interested in kind of learning the references. So for the point where I was, like, I don't know, it kept my attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to send you a viewing menu of some Tokusatsu shows to watch
Sure,
after we're done recording, Hillary.
sure.
But I see where both of you are coming from. I mean, as a fan of the source material, I enjoyed the references and appreciate the earnestness that the game has. It feels they were really going for it, and I think they were mostly successful in capturing what's fun about Tokusatsu, like sort of the goofiness and earnestness mixed with real drama and somewhat interesting stories. But I basically
No,
agree with
I
Rob.
concede that.
The writing is a little bit weak in this game. It's they got jokes and sometimes they were funny, but like I would say the individual
It's kind
script,
of memey.
yeah, the individual script is fairly weak, and
Yeah.
they could have gone further in parody or satire, that and they really don't. But I do have to say I enjoyed this game a lot. But part of that is built in from me being a big fan of Sentai and Tokusatsu already, and having a game that celebrates those with earnestness and mostly non-broken gameplay was
Yeah.
satisfying for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, that it's kind of a celebration rather than anything else.
I mean, there's not very many tokusatsu games out there, and I mean, the
Yeah, I
ones
mean,
there are, I mean,
Mhm.
there's like the bad Ultraman fighting games
oh
that
yeah,
you would see
there's
in the back of EGM to order for a lot of money, but
there are a few Sentai video games. There's actually more Power Rangers ones than Sentai ones, but
yeah,
like the
but it's still
very
limited
like
in terms of
and
quality. It's almost, this is probably one of the better ones.
my favorite one is one of the NES ones that has a very amusing 8-bit rendition of the opening theme in the opening menu. But when the best part of the game is the opening theme in the menu, it's like that doesn't you know that's not the most ringing endorsement necessarily.
Mm.
And I mean the ultimate Tokusatsu game is one that Rob referenced a few minutes ago, Beautiful Joe, which is basically a Kamen Rider parody where your special moves come from zooming in and doing poses and doing and like speeding up or slowing down the camera, which are Tokusatsu tricks that every film and TV show in that genre uses. Um,
Mm.
so like, but and also there's a lot of video games, including several RPGs that we cover, that have Sentai or Kamen Rider references. Uh, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which came out a year or two ago, has one of the characters who you're working for a talent agency in that game, but one of the characters, his dream is to be the main character of a Tokusatsu show, and if you complete his side quest, he becomes the new main character in the new Masquerader or Masquerader TV show in
Mm.
that game.
He starts off as just the villain of the week, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he starts out as a villain of the week, and then if you continue his quest, like the ending of it is, oh, you're the new main character for the next season,
Oh,
which
good
which
for
I
him.
thought which I thought was very sweet. It was I appreciated that subplot. But yeah, like again, Chroma Squad does not have the highest production value. The writing isn't great. There's plenty of weaknesses that you could look at to pick the game apart. But I think that it's earnest and non-broken and mostly
Hmm.
funny, which is enough for me.
Yeah.
So I could give listeners my top 5 recommendations for Sentai and writer shows, but then we would lose all of our audience. So I shall refrain from doing so.
That one for the show notes?
Yeah, sure. One for the show notes. I'll see how many Jetman references I can sneak into the show notes. But we have been Retro Encounter, and this has been episode 119. Next week we have a very special episode celebrating the felines of RPGs. This is a sequel to our popular dog episode from 2017. So we decided in 2018 to do an episode all about cats. Alana's hosting that episode, and I know she was very excited to talk about kitties and RPGs. So that should be a lot of fun. And following that episode, we're going to do 2 episodes about Valkyrie Profile in the month of February. I think, yeah, both of you signed up for that one, didn't you?
That's right. I think I'm hosting that one.
Right on. Okay.
Yep.
I suppose we've not recorded them yet, but those are coming. Those are coming in February, and also the Lunar New Year begins in mid-February. So we're going to do a special Year of the Dog episode in February, all about Okami, which is a game that is in a way a celebration of the Asian Lunar New Year. And so we're going to have a special one-off Okami episode to celebrate the Year of the Dog, 2018.
You asked, we listened. We're finally covering Okami.
Yeah. You know, it's sort of a weird thing. Okami is one of the games that we argue about the most on whether we should cover it or not. We being RPG Fan as a site, but I guess like the current leadership and the enthusiasm among staff for Okami is such now that we all decided to cover Okami. Like, sure, why not? You can go ahead and email into us or comment on our boards on rpgfan.com or visit the rpgfan.com Facebook page and tell us that Okami isn't an RPG, and that's fine. But we're gonna have an episode on it anyway.
It
It,
totally is.
In addition to commenting on the boards or visiting the Facebook page, we are also on Twitter at RPGFancom, and we would appreciate it very much if you reviewed us on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you're finding us. If you're using a podcast venue and not listening directly from the site, you can also email us at retro@rpgfan.com. So, starting with you, Rob, if listeners want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
You can find me on the boards as Townscar Marty for Play in Town and Car, and you can find me on Twitter at Misanthrobob. Let's transform and roll out. That's not Sentai at all.
No. Sometimes they do say "hashin" like a rollout when they
Yeah.
summon their mecha. It's do
Oh,
that in a
nice.
couple series. But unlike Kamen Rider, where Henshin is the transform phrase for every Kamen Rider series,
Yeah.
they do a different one for every Sentai.
Okay.
So it's say sometimes it's Tenshin, sometimes it's Henge, sometimes they just say change in English. It's my favorite Sentai show, Gokaiger. They yell Gokai change.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Portmanteau.
Yeah, exactly. And Gokaiger is the pirate season, and it's pretty excellent. But anyway, Hilary, if listeners want to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
Best way to get in touch with me is on the boards. I'm EP Fire there, and yeah, happy to discuss, happy to learn from any Sentai fans that might be out there.
Oh no. Well, there probably aren't any Sentai fans that listen, but just in case there are, yeah, bug Hilary on the boards for what show she should watch. You should watch next. And for myself, I am Monsoon on the boards. I am Monsoon Mike on the RPG Fan Discord, which I forgot to mention earlier. We do have a Discord. It's called RPG Fan, and I believe it's in invite only. So if you want to get an invitation, just go on the boards and ask for one, and you shall receive one. My Twitter is at The Real Monsoon, and I have a special second Twitter at Evoker for Dogs, which is only for rants about video games and Tokusatsu, pretty much. So if you want me to, like, I don't know, complain about the most recent episode of Kamen Rider Build, that's where you follow me on Twitter to
That's the
listen for
one.
that. Hmm.
Useful information for this episode for sure.
Oh yeah. But
Right on.
I think that about does it for our social media and for Chroma Squad. So thank you very much, Hilary and Rob, for joining me for this episode. Everybody, thank you. Good night and good luck.